The T app was designed to protect women. Instead, it just exposed 72,000 images, selfies, driver's license, location data, etc. Because someone forgot to secure the storage bucket. Literally no password, no encryption, no nothing. The crazy part, this wasn't even some elite hacker attack. It was basic negligence. Amateur AI-generated code deployed at scale without security reviews. This guy's saying this has happened because it's been vibe coded and their basic security has not been put in place. Welcome, this is Kyle. I'm here to give you the AI updates of the day, as well as answer any questions that you have on the live stream. We have a number of big news items today, including a few from yesterday that I didn't manage to get to because there were so many questions flooding in, which I absolutely love. We will always do the audience questions over the news because, frankly, they are generally more interesting. I did want to quickly talk about a news item from yesterday, though, that I didn't manage to get to. And while I'm doing that, make sure you're sending in your questions and I'll be able to switch over to them very shortly. And good morning, everybody. So the news is about an app called TEA, like a cup of tea. It's a women's dating app, and they recently had a security breach. So this is pretty horrendous because the hackers gained access to 72,000 user photos, including 13,000 selfies and photo identifications submitted for account verification purposes, as well as 59,000 images from posts, comments, and direct messages, etc. So why this is really scary is T is an app. Here we go. It allows women to basically spill the tea, to report on dates that they've had, specifically about certain men. So if a man is particularly problematic, T is an app where people can go and say, hey, watch out for this guy. This guy is a red flag. So it allows women to share information about men who are potentially problematic. That's the purpose of the application. So the fact that there has been a data breach is really scary because this is meant to be a safe space where women are able to share details about men who are potentially violent, potentially problematic, potentially stalkers, etc., etc. These are the kind of conversations that you really don't want to be getting out and becoming public. It's the kind of information that the men who are problematic would like to get their hands on. So this is an incredibly upsetting data leak for many reasons. So what's happened, though, is because this data leak happened recently, people are blaming vibe coding. So I'll pull up an example. It's a narrative that's going around, but here's one, for example. This is from a guy called Linus Belunas. I might be saying your name wrong. I'm sorry, Linus. But he says, wild, vibe coded T app that positioned itself as the safest app for women just leaked 59.3 gigabytes of selfies, IDs, and private direct messages. The T app was designed to protect women. Instead, it just exposed 72,000 images, selfies, driver's license, location data, etc. Because someone forgot to secure the storage bucket. Literally no password, no encryption, no nothing. The crazy part, this wasn't even some elite hacker attack. It was basic negligence. Amateur AI-generated code deployed at scale without security reviews. This guy's saying this has happened because it's been vibe coded and their basic security has not been put in place. I agree that basic security has not been in place. I disagree that it was vibe coded. So the T app has been around since 2023, and it was actually primarily developed before vibe coding was even a thing. So vibe coding is relatively new. The term itself was only coined in, I think, February this year, 2025. But the T app has been around since 2023 for a couple of years beforehand. So there's a guy called Simon Williamson who you should definitely check out. He talks about security, he talks about coding, and he's gone through this and he's had a look at the application, he's had a look at the data leak, and he's saying, I've seen a bunch of commentary using this incident as an example of the dangers of vibe coding. I'm confident vibe coding was not to blame in this particular case, even while I share the large concern of irresponsible vibe coding lead to more incidents of this nature. So this is a guy who's saying vibe coding can be very dangerous because it does allow people to deploy applications without necessarily knowing how to secure them. So it's incredibly risky if you don't go through the security procedures. So Simon Williamson is saying, yes, absolutely vibe coding can be a problem. It is not in this case. So he says, the announcement that T makes it clear that the underlying issue relates to code written prior to February 2024, long before vibe coding was close to viable for building systems of this nature. So the code was from a year and a half ago, before vibe coding was really a thing, definitely before it got a name, which was only this year. And then the photos, they actually stopped requesting photos of ID back in 2023, 2 years ago. So way before vibe coding was definitely a thing. So the information that's been leaked, the information that's been pulled from this database is from before vibe coding existed. Yes, maybe they were using AI, but honestly, AI at the time was not very good. So it just looked like it was bad coders putting together a very insecure system. So it's very easy to paint this with a brush, the vibe coding brush, because there are significant security concerns when you vibe code an app and you don't know what you're doing, because hackers and people with bad intentions know a lot more about how to get into an application than a vibe coder knows about how to secure it. So there are definitely problems. The thing is, with this T data leak, this big newsworthy data leak, it does not seem to be the case that this is a vibe coding issue. This is just plain old bad coding. It's bad security practices that were put into place, unfortunately, in this case, for an incredibly sensitive data storage that was left basically unprotected. So yes, vibe coding can be problematic. No, not in this case necessarily. But this is just another reminder that we need to be really careful when we are dealing with customer data, when we're dealing with user data. Right now in the UK, as of a few days ago, it is now required for users to upload photo verification. So either photo verification of themselves using a selfie, or identification if they want to access adult sites. This is the new, I've got the name of it. Let me pull up the name so I don't get this wrong. I should know the name of this. It's quite a big deal. The Online Safety Act. Okay, so the Online Safety Act is just been brought into play in the UK, and it requires us now to upload identification or a selfie to verify our age if we want to access anything that is adult or pornographic. It's been used on Reddit as well. So it's spreading out. What the problem is here, though, is the UK has required age verification, but they haven't put together a centralized system for it. So instead, the onus for verifying age falls upon the company. So whether it's the adult website or Reddit or whatever the site is, they need to provide their own age verification. So this means it's basically been farmed out to lots of third parties. We assume that these third-party verification tools won't leak our data, but we don't know that. We do not know that at all. And when data breaches happen, if it has personal verifiable information, it can be incredibly dangerous because people have copies of our passport or copies of our driver's license. So these things need to be ultra secure. And the UK is basically forcing a lot of companies into this position where they have to collect this information. Some of them may be rushing it. Some of them may be cutting corners and not providing the best security. So this, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more leaks of this nature moving into the future. If you are vibe coding your own app, make sure you know how to do this properly. It's actually something that I'm covered yesterday in the newsletter. Totally coincidental, but talked about how you can secure a lovable application. And so the newsletter right now is going through something I call the AI Summer Camp, which is 10 weeks of walking you through coming up with an idea, bringing it to market and building an MVP using Lovable, making sure it's secure. Today's issue is about adding payment, so connecting it to Stripe, and then launching it into the market. So I'm writing about that for the whole of summer. So it's a 10-week course. It's all free and it's all available in the newsletter. You can go and find the previous issues as well. So yeah, that's the T scandal, which I think is a huge problem and a warning about the uploading of personal identifiable information onto the internet, especially when we do not know how much we can trust the source. In this particular case, I do not think it was from vibe coding because the source code, the code for the security of their data bucket was created before vibe coding was a thing. But I can see why it's being painted with the same brush. Okay, I'm going to switch over to questions very briefly. Let's see. Thingy Mahingi is saying they almost certainly will leak data though at some point. So this is the problem with uploading information, uploading data. At some point, there's going to be a breach, and we become so used to it. It used to be whenever there was a data breach, there'd be panic in the news. But now you look at a list of all the largest companies like Sony. Sony keep breaching our passwords again and again. But you go through a list of all of the large companies on Earth, and most of them have had the data breach. And it becomes so normalized that we don't really think about it anymore. Every once in a while, every 6 months, we're like, oh, I have to change passwords. But most of us still use the same passwords for everything, which is terrible. Don't do that. Use a password manager. But we've become very inured, very used to this happening, unfortunately. But it becomes very dangerous when we are uploading things like our passport, when we're uploading things like driver's licenses in order to prove our age, because these documents can be used in fraud, especially as we move into the world of AI, where our likeness, our image, our voice can be duplicated. And then add to that the fact that somebody might have access to our passport page. You can see the problems here. So we need to be very careful about our personal information. So when a company does ask you to upload a passport or a driver's license, you need to think, okay, do I trust this company, and do I trust them not to get breached in the future? At some point, they probably will. That is the problem. And I'm sure in the UK in particular, now that these new laws have come into place with ID or age verification being required for adult sites, we're going to see a breach in the next year or so. And it's going to be quite embarrassing for the people whose information gets breached because of the nature of the website. So think carefully. Hit and don't get hit asks a really good question, which I should have answered. What actually is vibe coding? It's a really good question. Thank you for asking. Vibe coding it's a term that was coined only a few months ago by a guy called Andrej Karpathy. So let me pull up his exact definition. No, AI overviews. I'm going to click on a link this time. I'm going to go to Wikipedia. So vibe coding is artificial intelligence assisted software development style popularized by Andrej Karpathy in early 2025, I think February 2025. It describes a chatbot-based approach to creating software where the developer describes a project or task to a large language model like Chat GPT, which generates code based on the prompt. So previously, when you wanted to create software, you had to be able to speak the language of computers. There are many languages. Python, for example, is a programming language that I can use to speak to a computer. So for the last few decades, that has been how we interfaced with computers. We had to learn their language. Vibe coding changes this. So because we have large language models like Chat GPT, Claude, Grok, etc., what's happened now is we can now use natural language. Natural language is the fancy term just to refer to how we speak. Actual language, it's an engineering term, or software engineering. They call it natural language, but it is just language. We can use English to talk to our machines now, which allows us to communicate without having to use the machine language. We use the human language instead. So vibe coding is basically an extension of that, where let's say I want to build a basic application which acts as a timer, and I can have it running on my desktop in Chrome, and it helps me to break up my study sessions into Pomodoro sections of 25 minutes or whatever. I want to create a piece of software. So previously, I'd have to work out how to do that using something like Python or JavaScript, and then deploy it and build it all myself. Now with vibe coding, I can talk to a tool and say, hey, this is what I want to do. And I would literally use natural language to say, I want to build an application that allows me to monitor my study time. Maybe I want a cute 8-bit art style and it needs to work in Chrome. Go. And the AI will not only tell me how to do that, it will go a step further and actually build that for me. So this is a little bit different to the normal use of Chat GPT. Generally with Chat GPT, we're moving away from this, but generally, when you talk to Chat GPT or talk back, you go back and forward, but you would still need to copy things out to go into your software development tools in order to paste in the code, for example. With vibe coding tools, so we're talking things like Lovable, we're talking Bolt, Replete, and Cursor, which is slightly different. I'll talk about that in a moment. We talk to the large language model like ChatGPT or Claude, and it will do the work for us. So it will say, okay, I've got it. And then it will make files for you. It will put them in the right order. It will write the code, connect the code to each other, connect it to a database. It will do all of that work for you, which allows us to now build software using natural language. So that's the vibing part of it. You can literally sit back, grab a beer, and have a chat with these tools in order to work out a piece of software. Whereas before you'd be hunched over the keyboard, typing in all of the commands, typing in all of the lines of code manually. That is no longer the case. What this allows us to do is, even if you are not a highly technical coder, even if you haven't spent years learning programming languages and front end and back end and how to build databases, etc., even if you don't know any of that, you can now build right now, in the next 5 minutes or so, you can build a piece of working software. That's vibe coding. That's the exciting part of it. I was talking, I think it was yesterday or a couple of days ago, about Greg Eisenberg. He's an entrepreneur. He tweets a lot. He talks about the new economy, the AI economy. And he talked about a meeting that he was in where most of them were having a traditional meeting where you talk about ideas, what we're going to do. You set up a plan, and then, oh yeah, we'll test these things out. You divvy up responsibilities, etc. And they were talking about a new project. And they were doing it the old-fashioned way, just having a meeting, a very unproductive meeting. And one guy in the corner, he was just sitting there tapping away on his keyboard. And halfway through the meeting, he said, "Oh, I've done it. I've built it." The thing that they were discussing, that they were all going to go away and brainstorm and have focus groups and work together, he had just gone ahead and vibe coded that idea in the meeting. So instead of all of that time being wasted, he had a very basic version that they could play with, they could kick the tires off, they could decide whether it is a good idea or not. Vibe coding allows us to move at that kind of speed, extremely fast. And it allows us to put together a minimum of viability product, an MVP, very quickly. And we can show that to investors, we can show that to beta users, we can use it to start to gain feedback about what it is we're building. Again, the 10-week course I'm writing right now, it's all built on vibe coding. It's all built on speed and deploying something very quickly, even if you are not a coder. Now, the problem with vibe coding, and this is why the T article about the T app was interesting, was that just because you can build a piece of software with a tool like Lovable or a tool like Cursor does not mean it is ready to be deployed straight away. There are certain things like securing user data or connecting to a payment processor that if you don't get right, it's going to leave gaps in your code. And people who know how to hack, people who know how to get into your software will be able to do that. And because you're vibe coding, you don't necessarily know what you don't know. You don't know what checks you need to do before taking something live. So it has put some applications at risk of being compromised and user data being stolen. It's a relatively easy fix, though. There's a couple of things you can do. And this is more advanced. I just recommend going and playing with vibe coding initially and building your own internal tools first. But if you did want to deploy something that you're going to sell, at that point, what you need to do is do a security audit. And that can be as simple as giving a checklist to your vibe coding tool and saying, hey, we need to do all of this. Help me do all of this. I don't know what it means. And the vibe coding tool will help you through the process. That's probably the first step. And after that, if you are going to be selling, if you're going to be turning this into a business, you can pass your app, your code over to a professional who can secure it and make sure that it is watertight. There is an increasing problem in the market where a lot of traditional coders are either refusing to work with vibe coded apps or they're charging more, because sometimes vibe coding can lead to something that is non-optimal, or spaghetti code, we can call it. The traditional coders are like, okay, I'll fix it, but it's going to cost you more. In part, this is a fear response, because if you are a coder right now and you're looking at these vibe coding tools, there is a very good reason why you should be concerned, because you might have spent the last decade learning these programming languages, and now suddenly any idiot, someone like me, can come along and create a working piece of software in an hour or so. So if you are a coder who's dedicated your life to this, that's scary. So vibe coding is very contentious for this reason. The traditional coders who have dedicated their life to this skill, lots of them hate it because they're fearful. This is a very logical reason. Some of them, quite a few of them, are also embracing it, because if you combine traditional coding experience, traditional software development experience with vibe coding tools like Cursor, for example, you can do a lot of work very quickly and very well. So they're going to be the people who win. I think for somebody who's never tried it before, though, just go ahead and play around with it. You don't need to do a course. You don't need any permission. Just go and sign up for something like Lovable. Lovable is my favorite. I'm not sponsored, but if you want to sponsor me, Lovable, go for it. I'd love to. I love the tool anyway, so why not? You will literally have a chat bar, Chat GPT, where you're going to type in what you want to build, and it will, like magic, put together the first version of that for you. I recommend just trying it out. It's free to test it out. Sorry, that was a very long way around and about the houses of explaining vibe coding. I would say just play around with a tool and you will very quickly be like, oh, I get this is awesome. It's a bit like when you first use Chat GPT. I think everyone had that Chat GPT moment where maybe it happened with GPT 3.5, maybe it was 4, maybe it was GPT 4.0, whatever it was. For a lot of us, there would be that one moment where we tried it out. We're like, oh, what's this new AI thing? And we play around with it and be like, oh, okay, this is cool. You will have that moment when you try vibe coding for the first time because it creates something from nothing, which is genuinely exciting. It's a moment of creation. So go and have some fun. Lovable.dev. Thingy Mahingi says, I won't upload my passport or to anyone except banks. I think it's naive to upload, as you mentioned. Yeah, I think increasingly people become used to giving away their personal details and we become used to this becoming the norm. It didn't used to be. Your passport used to be sacrosanct. You wouldn't share it with anybody. But increasingly, passport and driver's license are just what you give up in order to have access to certain things. Whether or not we trust a pornography site with their internet security. Pornhub, to be fair, is a very impressive tech company. They release, can't believe I'm talking about this, but every year they release their data analytics and they have a huge data team. And it's actually a very polished, smooth operation. What they've done is, regardless of what you think about the focus of their data, the focus of their service, they have an extremely polished data science team, and it's well worth looking at their reports. They're much more professional than you would expect because it's a huge business, the adult entertainment industry. But the question is, would you trust a company like this to keep your passport and your driving license data secure, knowing that if there is a data breach, your name and your ID is going to be linked to one of these adult sites? That is a personal choice that people need to make. A bit like when there was that Ashley Madison data breach a couple of years ago. That again, that is something that if your identifiable information is linked to and there's a breach, the ramifications of that are much more than if it is a bank, for example. Hit and don't get hit says, very nice. Is it good for mobile apps? I've been learning React Native. So yes, you can vibe code mobile apps. I'm not sure if Lovable, whoops, I just lost something. I'm not sure if you can do, so most vibe coding tools like Lovable, Replete, and Bolt, they focus on web apps. So something that's going to run in the browser, something that's going to be like a web page basically, but it has interactive features. I do not know if they allow you to create in React and then publish to the iOS store. Okay. So yeah, this would be my answer. So there are more advanced tools than Lovable. Lovable is fantastic for very basic applications or to test out an idea before you start to build it out properly. What you can do though is you can use something called Cursor. So Cursor is a full IDE development environment where if you've used VS Code or any other development environment, you'd recognize it immediately. I think it's a fork of VS Code actually, but it has vibe coding tools. So the right-hand panel is how you talk to Gemini or Claude or Chat GPT or whatever your particular coding large language model of choice is. And it can do the vibe coding for you, but in a traditional development environment. So that's like the next step up. I don't recommend people start with it because there is a steeper learning curve. Whereas you go to Lovable and it is literally, it looks like ChatGPT, but it builds applications for you. Very easy to start using. Cursor, on the other hand, is much more powerful, but it requires some software development knowledge because you're going to be running and testing your application via the terminal. You're going to have to install dependencies, etc., etc. Things that if you don't know anything about software development, you're like, what is this? This is terrifying, and you're likely to give up. However, you can use it to develop iOS apps or Android apps. You can use it to develop anything you want. It's much more powerful and wide-ranging. What you can do, and I'd recommend this is what I do with a lot of things, is you can start in Lovable and you get your basic version up and running. So you get the basic things in place. So you can see the functionality, you get an idea of the user interface and the user experience. You get the basics done in Lovable. You can then export that. So if you are creating in React, for example, is it React? Yeah, React. Then you'd build the basic version in React in Lovable, and then you export it out into Cursor. And then you can build from there using Cursor and then later deploy it onto the App Store. So that's how I would personally do that, because that's going to allow you to get the best of both worlds, basically. It allows you to rapidly prototype using Lovable, then move to Cursor for the full build, and then deploy it to iOS as well. Check out a guy called Marcin AI, Marcin. So I can put up, I chat with him regularly. He just vibe coded an iOS app in a day, and he got it published, I think the same day. So I would check out what his workflow was, because that's going to be the way to do it. I believe he already had an iOS publisher account. I forget the name of it, a developer account. He already had that. So obviously that takes time to get authorized. That was in place already, but it allowed him to, he used Cursor. So he wrote in Swift in Cursor, and he published it to the App Store. And I think it got approved within about a day or so. So he's well worth looking at. So his name again is Marcin, Teodoru, Marcin. He's on TikTok and he's on Instagram, and he walked through the process of how he did that. So I'd go and check him out for that specifically, because I haven't published an iOS app, so I don't know about that. Good morning from Florida. I want to update my CV to be AI optimized. Is there a free tool other than Chat GPT that you recommend? Do you mean AI optimized so that AIs can read it when you apply for jobs? Because that's becoming increasingly a thing. Or do you just want a general tool to help you with it? So if you want a free tool, I mean, Chat GPT is probably the one to go with. What I would do though, so there are specialized tools that help you to write CVs. They're generally not paid. They're generally not free. They're generally paid, but they are basically Chat GPT wrappers. They're built on top of Chat GPT or Claude or whatever the other model is. What you can do to replicate to a certain extent their functionality for free is you use the free version of Chat GPT or the free version of Claude. What you'll do, you'll upload your current CV, and you will say to the model, hey, I want to optimize it for, give it a goal. So I want to optimize it for jobs that I'm applying for in the industrial manufacturing sector, whatever it is. Then you will ask the AI to interview you. You say, I want you to interview me in order to get information from me to optimize my CV. So that's going to get the ChatGPT and put it into a mode where it's going to ask you a bunch of questions. You answer those questions, and it's going to use it to optimize your CV. That's going to work much better than just giving your CV to ChatGPT and saying, hey, make this better, because it will then probably make things up, and it could potentially make you the CEO of NASA and stuff like that, if that sounds impressive. So instead, we put it into interview mode, and we get it to ask you questions so it can extract the information from you and then write it in a nice way for the CV. So that's how I'd personally do it. And you should be able to use ChatGPT, a free model, without having to sign up for a specific CV optimizer. Hopefully that helps. Oh, I'm getting lots of filtered comments, which means somebody got angry in the comments. I'm not going to have a look at it. Burning Daylight said, I've learned AI coders are not great at troubleshooting. Yeah. So this is one of the big problems with vibe coding in general. I like to call it whack-a-mole. So sometimes you will fix a bug, and in fixing that bug, another bug will pop up. Sometimes a bug that you fixed a few days ago. There are ways to work around this. Personally, I use Gemini because Gemini has a huge context window. So it's able to hold a lot of the code base at the same time. So it's able to see different parts of the code base and make sure it's not changing things. You can also explicitly say, okay, we're working on this problem right now. Do not change any of the other things that we have worked on. And you can specifically say, do not change this module, etc., so that it doesn't break other parts. But at the end of the day, code is complicated. When you're building a large, complicated program, there are going to be dependencies, things that connect to each other. AIs tend to hyperfixate on the problem that they're fixing right now at the detriment of other parts of the code. So they can break other parts of the code, and you end up in this kind of death loop almost, where you're fixing one thing, which breaks two other things, and then you fix them, and then 5 other things are broken. When that happens, I generally, 1, start a new chat. 2, make sure that I have a running to-do list, and I ask the AI to refer to that every time it does anything. It's go and check the master plan, go and check what we've done already, and make sure you're not duplicating your efforts, make sure you know what's already been done. And that kind of helps keep it on track. The other thing is, this is the best practice thing, is to do one small task at a time. So it's very tempting with vibe coding to give it commands. Okay, build me an e-commerce system, or build me a customer relationship management system, which you can do, but it's going to be an absolute mess because it's too large a task to do in one go. So instead, we want to break down the task. I normally do this in Claude. So I'll say to Claude, hey, I'm coding a customer relationship system. This is what I want it to look like. I want it to be a bit like HubSpot. I want to be able to collect user emails. So I'll give it all the specifications, work that out in Claude, and then say to Claude, give me a staggered development schedule. So what can I build step by step, testing each part to see if it works before moving on to next. And it would give me 10 to 20 steps. And then I'll take that over to Lovable. I'll take that to Cursor, whatever I'm working in, and work step by step through the problem, each time checking to make sure the previous step hasn't broken everything, and then moving on like this. Also, make sure to use GitHub if you are not already. So anyone who doesn't code, Hub is, how do you describe it? GitHub is version control. So like when you save a document in Word, you can actually access previous versions of that document. So maybe there are 20 different drafts that you've kept. This is really important in coding because you want to have multiple points that you can roll back to. Just in case something goes wrong, you can actually roll back to previous points, see if the problem is still there, and work from there. So GitHub allows you to save all of your code in the cloud in a GitHub account. I believe, Lovable has a connection to GitHub, so you can synchronize it, and definitely Cursor does as well. And that means that if you do hit a death loop, if you do hit lots of bugs that basically derail you, you can always roll back to a previous version that you know works, and then you can try again from there. But yeah, AI coders are not great at troubleshooting. That kind of requires the human to know the best practices for being able to work through that. That said, learning those best practices is a lot easier still than learning to code from scratch, but there still is a learning curve. There's no way around that, really. So the next piece of news is actually, we'll do this one. So here we go. So in the UK, I noticed this literally this morning, and it rolled out yesterday. So now when I search on my telephone, I can't show you because I'm on TikTok on the phone, unfortunately. When you search, so previously, it would show an AI overview at the top of Google for most of your searches. I've talked about this on previous lives, how this is leading us down the path of a zero-click internet, where we don't actually have to go to the websites. We can just extract the information from the top of the search. So we still go to Google, but we're not clicking on the website, which for the people who build websites is a disaster because they generally get their revenue from adverts they run on their websites or sales that they make through their website. Google is basically allowing us to bypass that. So what they've now done is they've added an AI mode directly into Google. So previously, AI overviews just hijacked your searches. If you search for how to make a vegan lasagna, it would give you the websites, but on top of that, it would give you a recipe for a vegan lasagna. So whether you liked it or not, it would basically be there. I think you could turn it off. There was some way, but they hid it down deep in various settings menus. So now what they've added is at the top bar, you generally have all images, shopping, maps, etc. The various different modes of Google. They've now added AI mode, and it sits right at the front. So that basically gives us access to Gemini. Gemini is their model, but it's sitting right at the front end of Google search. So this is again Google leaning in to artificial intelligence. I've talked about this multiple times. I was at Google last week and I managed to keep my mouth closed because they were hosting the event and I didn't want to be too rude, but generative AI is an existential threat to Google because it changes the paradigm of how we access information. For the last couple of decades, we have used search to find information. So somebody had to spider and crawl and index all of that information so that we could search for what we're looking for and find the information we needed. That has been Google for the last 10 years, more than that, 20 years. Search makes up about 75% of their revenue. I believe it was about $200 billion last year. It's a big chunk of change, and it's at a 75% margin as well. So this is their cash cow. Generative AI is a huge risk to that cash cow, so much so that Mustafa Suleiman, who was their VP of AI before he left, he said in an interview recently that Lambda, which was their Chat GPT before Chat GPT, was actually killed. They did not allow it to be released, knowing that it would be such a threat to their search engine business, which is, again, their cash cow. So what they're doing now with things like the AI overviews at the top, with things like now this new AI mode, which is rolled out in the UK, is they're trying to have their cake and eat it. They're trying to become the forerunner for generative AI. They're trying to bring AI into use for everyday people without us having to go and get a Chat GPT subscription. So what they're doing, I fully understand it. The question is whether or not they will be able to make up the same amount of cash as they get from search using generative AI. Right now, most of the generative AI companies are not making that kind of money. ChatGPT made 10 billion last year. I think they're still running. Are they in profit? OpenAI. I think they're in. So they're at 10 billion annual recurring revenue. I don't think they're in profit yet, which is normal. A lot of tech companies will stay out of profit for as long as possible because then you're not paying taxes, but also it allows you to, you're continuously reinvesting with a larger payoff in the future. If anyone's seen Silicon Valley, the television series, there's this VC guy that they have. You should play the clip one day. It's really good. You should look it up. Look up a Silicon Valley no revenue clip and you'll find it. But basically this VC finds out that the main characters are making money. They're actually making cash. And the founders are obviously excited. Oh, wow, we made $50,000, we made $100,000. For them, that seems like a mark of success. And this VC says to them, absolutely not. Do not make any money. Like, you must not make any profit because when you are making revenue, people can attach a number to your success. They can say, oh, they made 10 billion or they made 5 billion or they made $100,000. It allows them to attach a solid number to it, which can kill you if that number is too low. Whereas if you're not making any money yet, you are pre-revenue. And that allows people to imagine just how many billions you can make. So Silicon Valley, not just a show, but the place itself is a weird one when it comes to economics. Like Amazon, for example, ran at a loss for, I think, nearly a decade. Let me have a look for how long. So yeah, they took 14 years to go into profit. So it's just a different way of running businesses where you use venture capital to prop yourself up while running at a loss. So you're not paying any taxes, but you are reinvesting everything into infrastructure so that you can come out of that being the leader, having decimated everybody else because they weren't able to spend to keep up with you. OpenAI and Anthropic, to a certain extent, are in that situation right now where they are spending, trying to become market leaders. Google are in a different place because they are a company that have been around for decades already, and they have deep pockets of cash, huge amounts of cash, which come through Google search. The question now is, do you sacrifice that cash cow in order to become the leader in generative AI? Do you kill off the part of your business, which is 75% of your revenue, to pivot to something that is as of yet unknown? It's a big question. Like if you abstract it from Google, if you abstract it from the technology, any business going through that decision of, hey, we have a cash cow, which is 75% of our revenue. Do we protect this or do we kill it and pivot? That's a huge question and it's a huge pivot. So it'd be interesting to see how Google manages to balance this. I am not convinced they have an overarching strategy. Unfortunately, I think YouTube is very emblematic here. So YouTube belongs to Google. It's, by all accounts, it's the second largest search engine in the English language. We don't think of it as a search engine, but that basically is what it is. So right now, on the 15th of July, they said, we're demonetizing AI content. You will no longer be able to monetize a channel that is producing huge amounts of AI content. Okay, fine. So that's them saying, no, we don't want Gen AI. And then at the end of last week, they introduced the ability to use VO3, which is their AI video generator. You can use it directly in YouTube now to create YouTube Shorts. So I think there are so many divisions at Google going against each other, doing different things. I do not think there is an overarching strategy about what on earth they are doing with AI. So are they trying to fight it to remain the head of search, or are they killing off search and embracing AI? Is it somewhere in between? I think it's such a large beast now with so many heads that they are infighting, not on purpose, but it's going to be really hard to turn that ship around. So I am bullish on Google, as you guys probably know if you've been watching me. Second to none says, perhaps they'll start making people pay to appear in AI search results. 100%, that's what they're going to be doing. There have already been experiments with Google, with shopping results appearing in AI. 100%, that's what they have to do. They are in the business of advertising. So we think of Google as a tech company. They're not. They're an advertising company. Their revenues come from getting attention and then showing adverts to the people whose attention they have. Their business is about eyeballs and it's about exposure. It is not a tech company. It is an advertising company. That's where all their money comes from. So we look at things like our Google Pixel phones and Gmail, and we think of that as Google's product. No, their product is us. It's us going to Google, which we do not pay for. We go to Google in our droves. Millions of us go onto Google and search for things. And Google sell to their actual customers, the advertisers, the advertising slots at the top. Same on YouTube, but it's just adverts are inserted into the video. The customers are the advertisers, the users are the product. So always remember this in tech. Whenever we get to use something for free, we're not the customer. We are the product. So things like the free version of Chat GPT, the reason it is free is because they're using that to train their models, to make their models better and better. When you pay for Chat GPT, you get increased data privacy. So if you are not paying for something, you are the product. You are not the customer. So exactly. So Google will 100%, 1000% start to put advertisements into their results. There is no way they're not going to do that because that is their business model. And that's probably how they're going to try and bridge the gap between search and advertising model and generative AI. Laura Seller says, thank you for the useful information. Learned so much from you. Have to head out to walk the dog. Have a good time, Laura. By the way, this sounds egotistical. For people who like to listen to my voice, which apparently is a lot of you, which I find bizarre, but thank you. We have released a podcast version of this. So obviously you can't see the screen, you can't see me, but I'm still delivering the same information. So there's a podcast now on iTunes and Spotify and various places. I personally despise the sound of my own voice, but yeah, apparently people don't mind it, so I won't complain. Have a good time on your dog walk. User 950068, I'm not going to read all of that, says Google's business is diverse, their cloud is growing, and they have Waymo. Yes, they have too many business divisions. The money still comes from search. That is where the cash comes from. They have lots of different kind of bets. So things like a Gmail, for example, was created because they give their staff members one day off, basically. They have one day where they need to work on their own project. I've forgotten the name of it. It's got a name. The 20% rule or something, where they work on their own project. So Gmail, for example, was a private project that somebody created during that time. And then boom, they are one of the largest email providers on earth. They don't charge for that. Because again, they serve up adverts in your inbox. They will also very likely be training their models on our emails. Again, if you are using something for free, that is not the product. The product is the advertising sales that they run. So yes, they have a huge amount of other business divisions. They don't make money generally. It is all coming from search and Google advertising revenue. It's worth having a look at the actual breakdown because what we see as consumers are the physical things like the telephones, like Gmail, Google Hangouts, which I think is being discontinued. And we see those parts of the business. They are not the products that are actually making money. That's in the back end. It's things like AdWords, which most people don't use unless you own a business. So while they do have a huge diversification, that's not where the money comes from. 100% I agree. It's just when you look at the actual figures and the breakdown of the revenue, they have a huge ship that they need to turn around away from search into these other areas. That's why they're always experimenting. That's why they're always trying out new things like Waymo, for example. But it is just a huge shift that they're going to have to make. And we'll see. Maybe they will. So the next one, this one's speculative. So I've left it a bit later. So this popped up on Reddit about 4 hours ago. There's a guy who opened up Chat GPT, desktop version. He is in Australia. He opened up Chat GPT and a brand new video chat button is sitting in tools. So now it says agent mode, video chat, Mobius, deep research, think longer, and web search. And he's given a screenshot of it. What he didn't notice when he first gave the screenshot is in the top left, in the model selector, it says Chat GPT 5 Prime. So this could be fake. This could be a mocked up screenshot. This could be absolute nonsense. We have seen this stuff before. Or it's nearly here. So they have tested rollouts in Australia before because it's a smaller population. Generally use rollout in smaller locations first. Sorry, Australia, you're not small. It's a lower population than America, for example. So you do small test rollouts and then you scale up from there. This might be what he's seeing. So he's got ChatGPT Prime. Other people in the Reddit are confirming they've seen the same thing, including, yes, another Australian is saying he's getting it as well. This could all be nonsense. This could all be rubbish, but we will find out very quickly. So it looks like it's the rollout is arriving. So we were originally told it's going to be July. Obviously, July ends in 2 days, 1 day, a couple of days from now. So probably not in July, but the newest information is going to be coming in August. So it looks like if this is true, ChatGPT 5 Prime, which is not a great name considering Amazon Prime, but it's going to come with agent mode, which we already have. It's going to come with video chat, and it's going to come with Mobius. These are going to be the new things. Now, video chat, interestingly, you can already do a video chat with ChatGPT. When you put it into advanced voice mode, you can press the video button, and then ChatGPT can see everything that you can see. I personally use this to set up my YouTube setup right here. I would show it what I was looking at, all of the different things that I'd purchased and say, how do I connect all of this? What wires do I need? And it was able to see everything and work it out and be like, oh, you've got a Blackmagic Atom Pro into a Focusrite Scarlett. It knew all of that and it was able to see and give me advice. Really cool mode. We've had that for 6 months, 9 months. What I think video chat's going to be is an avatar. I think they're about to give ChatGPT a face. So the third largest AI on the planet right now in terms of usage is something called character AI. Most people have never heard of it, never used it. It's generally younger people, it's teenagers and kids who are using this. And it's avatars, it's companionship. It is a lot like xAI's Annie, the Grok, slightly not safe for work avatar that they released. I think ChatGPT are about to give ChatGPT a face, basically. And it's going to be someone that we can talk to and that we can interface with as if we were interfacing with a human on a FaceTime call. Pretty cool. And I think they're trying to tap into that market that character AI currently hold because it's an incredibly attractive market and you can bring more people in. But we will see. This could be, though, what ChatGPT 5 brings to the table, because that's the big question is like, what do you actually add that's going to be much better? We already have a huge range of tools. O3 is pretty damn good. Like, it's a good model. So how do you improve on that without it becoming too niche, without it being, oh, we're better at the International Math Olympiad, which most people don't care about? How do you impress the normal everyday public? And it could be this video chat and the various other features that they're rolling out, but we shall find out soon, hopefully in the next few weeks. Of course, that could all be nonsense. We don't know. That is just Reddit. Cool. What's that? I think that is the main news. There was some news about Anthropic unveiling rate limits. So they sent out an email yesterday saying that they are rate limiting Claude Code. That said, this is a niche issue. Claude Code is arguably the best coding tool right now. So vibe coding, incredibly powerful, really good. But people were abusing it basically. So on the $200 a month package, you could have multiple Claude Code agents all running and basically racking up a huge bill for Anthropic. So finally, Anthropic said, nope, we're going to start to rate limit you, which I think is fair. A lot of people are annoyed. But the fact of the matter is, if you are hitting those rate limits, you're probably getting your $200 worth. And I'm sure they will come out with a new higher package and different ways to charge people even more money. Jolly good. Right, I'm going to finish up. If you found this useful, I do this every single morning. I try to aim for 10 a.m. London time today. You can also find all of the recordings cleaned up, tidied up, split into sections on YouTube. We're trying to grow the YouTube channel right now. It is an absolute slog. Let's have a look. Right now, I have 2,500 followers. Oh, okay, 2,638 subscribers. So it's very slow, but it is building and it's growing. And you can find all of the information from this live in a much more easy to consume package. So you can find the topics that you want to find in a specific video rather than having to go through the 1 hour long live. You can also get a summary of the news delivered into your inbox. So we take the recordings and we pull out the most interesting things. We write a small blurb about them and give the time code for the video if you want to find out more. That's available as a newsletter, which comes out every morning at 8 a.m. That is also free. There's a link in my bio for that. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, we now have a podcast as well. So it is taking the audio, cleaning it up, and preparing it in a podcast version too. So this live does a lot of work. It's a huge content machine, something that I'm actually going to write about one day, because we're producing many hours of content every single day from just this one live. And it's kind of a cool technique. So it's something I'm going to prepare a guide for at some point. That will be in the newsletter. Cool. I am going to log off for today, but I will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. London time. I will be on time, I promise. Hopefully we'll have more news on Chat GPT-5 coming out soon, but I won't hold my breath because it could still be a few weeks. Thank you all.